You've spent decades mastering a craft, like writing, coding, designing, teaching, and suddenly a machine can do 80% of it in seconds. The feeling isn't just frustration, it's an identity crisis. But here's the bottom line. If you try to compete on speed or volume, you lose every single time. In this episode, we're going to strip away the fear and focus on the utility of your experience. We're discussing the difference between generating and synthesizing. And I'm going to give you a step-by-step roadmap to transition from the worker who produces to the architect who directs. This is going to be your survival guide for the age of artificial intelligence. Welcome, my friends, to a new episode. I'm Danny, and this is the guide from English Plus Podcast. All right, let's be honest about what you're feeling right now. It's not just annoyance. It's not just a concern about job security. It's something much deeper. It's a specific kind of grief. I mean, you have spent 10, maybe 20 years building a fortress of knowledge. You read the books, you put in the late nights, you honed your syntax or your code or your design eye until it was sharp enough to cut glass. You built your identity on being the person who knows things, the person who can execute high-quality work faster than anyone else in the room. And then, almost overnight, the landscape shifted. You watched a machine churn out a draft, a solution, or a strategy in 4 seconds that would have taken you 4 hours at least to do. And maybe, just maybe, the machine's version was actually good. That realization feels like a gut punch. It feels like you've been bested. You look at that screen and you think, if this tool can do what I do, then what am I for? If you're asking that question, you're already halfway to the solution. Most people don't ask. They deny. They mock the AI, pointing out its hallucinations or its stiff prose, clinging to the hope that it's just a fad. Well, my friends, that's a losing strategy. Denial is not a plan. Now, here is the reality we have to accept before we can move forward. You can no longer compete on information recall. You can no longer compete on syntax generation. You can no longer compete on speed. If your value proposition is, I know a lot of facts and I can type them out quickly, you are in trouble. But here's the good news, and I mean this sincerely. That was never your actual value. That was just the labor. Your actual value is something the machine hadn't touched yet, and that is where we are going to build your new fortress. Today, we're going to break down exactly how to pivot. We aren't going to talk about embracing the future with vague optimism. We're going to look at the mechanics of resilience. We're going to restructure your workflow and your mindset so that you stop competing with the machine and start standing on top of it. Now, let's break this down into 3 phases: the mental shift, the strategic audit, and the execution protocol. Let's start with the first phase. Phase 1, the mental shift. Now, resilience in this context isn't about toughing it out. It's about reframing your relationship to the work. For your entire career, you have likely been an operator. An operator is someone who does the thing. You write the email, you debug the line of code, you grade the paper. You are the engine. The AI revolution forces you to become a conductor. Think about an orchestra. The violin player is skilled. They have dexterity and timing. But the conductor doesn't make a sound. The conductor doesn't touch a string. Yet, without the conductor, you don't have a symphony. You will have noise. The conductor understands the intent of the music. They understand pacing, emotion, and the overall architecture of the piece. The AI is now the violin player. It is a very fast, very tireless violin player. If you try to grab the bow and play faster than it, you look ridiculous. Your job now is to stand on the podium. This requires a painful ego death. You have to stop taking pride in the grind. Now, we have been conditioned to believe that if we didn't sweat over the first draft, we didn't earn the final product. You need to let that go. The grind is no longer the metric of value. The outcome is the metric of value. The insight is the metric of value. So the first step is to stop asking, how can I do this better than the AI? And start asking, how can I use the AI to get to the solution I envision? You're moving from production to direction. And that brings me to phase 2, the strategic audit. Now that you've adjusted the mindset, let's look at your inventory. You feel like your experience has been negated. Well, that is factually incorrect. Your experience is the only thing keeping the AI from producing garbage. AI models are probability engines. They predict the next word or pixel based on an average of human data. They are the ultimate average generators. They lack 3 things that you possess: context, nuance, and taste. Now, let's look at context. A machine can write a marketing strategy for a coffee shop, but it doesn't know that your specific coffee shop is in a neighborhood that resents gentrification. And therefore, using words like luxury or exclusive will actually alienate your customer base. It doesn't know the history of the street corner. It doesn't know the subtle emotional temperature of your team. Your experience gives you that context. You know why certain strategies fail, not because the data says so, but because you've seen the human fallout. Next is nuance. AI struggles with subtext. It struggles with the unsaid. In negotiation, in high-level teaching, in complex storytelling, the power is often in the silence between the words. It's in the deliberate ambiguity. A machine optimizes for clarity and pattern matching. It flattens the curve. You, with your lifetime of reading rooms and reading minds, know when to be ambiguous. You know when to break the rule. And finally, and most importantly, taste. Well, this is the big one. As AI floods the world with content, infinite blog posts, infinite images, infinite code, even music and videos, we are entering an era of noise. The scarcity is no longer content. The scarcity is curation. Who decides what is good? Who decides what is relevant? Well, you do. Your 20 years of experience have refined your taste. You know what a great sentence sounds like. You know what elegant code looks like. You can look at 10 AI-generated options and immediately identify the one that has a spark and the 9 that are derivative trash. That filter, that is your new currency. So here's your strategic audit. I want you to sit down and list every skill you have. Then I want you to circle the ones that require high emotional intelligence, local context, or subjective judgment. Those circled items, that is your job now. Everything else, well, just delegate it to the machine. That brings me to phase 3, the execution protocol. Now, we have the mindset, we have the strategy. Now it's time to talk about Monday morning. What do you actually do? Now, let's start with the first step, the integration hour. Now, you cannot direct a tool you do not understand. If you are feeling overwhelmed, it's usually because you're looking at AI as a monolith. You need to get your hands dirty. Dedicate 1 hour a day to breaking the AI. Don't just use it to write a generic email. Push it. Use specific, complex prompts. See where it fails. When you find the failure point, that is where you step in. For example, if you're a writer, have it write a story. Watch where it falls into cliché. Your job is to rewrite the cliche. You are now the editor in chief of a very prolific and unimaginative junior writer. Step 2, raise your baseline. And because the machine handles the basics, your baseline of quality must go up. Good enough is dead. Competent is now free. If you used to deliver competent reports, you are now obsolete. You must deliver insightful reports. You must deliver actionable wisdom. Use the time the AI saves you on drafting to spend more time on thinking. If it takes you 10 minutes to generate the data analysis instead of 4 hours, use those saved 3 hours and 50 minutes to figure out what the data actually means for the future of the company. Shift your energy from gathering to synthesizing. And now step 3, human-to-human connection. The more digital the world becomes, the more valuable the analog becomes. If you are a teacher, the lecture can be an AI video, no problem. But the mentorship, the hand on the shoulder, the specific encouragement to a student who is struggling with self-doubt, that is 100% you. If you are a consultant, the data processing is the machine. But the trust, the ability to look a client in the eye and say, I've seen this before and we're going to be okay, well, that is 100% you. Double down on your humanity. Be the person people want to talk to, not just the person who sends the file. And step 4, continuous reinvention. Well, this is the hardest part. You have to accept that the learning curve never flattens again. The tool you master today will be outdated in 6 months. Let's face that. That is the reality of our times. Not an easy pill to swallow, but it is the actual pill we have to swallow. My friends, resilience is not a state of being. It's a habit of adaptability. You must become comfortable with being a novice. Remember when you were starting out? That hunger, that willingness to look stupid while you figured it out? You need to find that again. The expert mindset is rigid. It breaks under pressure. The learner mindset, on the other hand, is flexible. It bends and snaps back. So let's wrap this up. I know it's scary. It is valid to mourn the old way of doing things. It was comfortable, let's face it. Especially after we'd learned how to do things for a very, very long time. And after doing those things for a very long time, we knew the rules. Everything was predictable. But my friends, the rules have changed. You haven't been bested. You've been promoted. You have been promoted from the assembly line to the design studio. Be happy about it. The machine can answer the question, sure, but only you can ask the right one. The machine can parse the data, but only you can find the meaning. The machine can simulate empathy, but only you can actually care. Your lifetime of learning wasn't a waste, trust me. It was the training ground for this exact moment. It gave you the wisdom to wield this new power responsibly. So to finish this episode, let me just tell you a couple of things you need to remember. Don't compete, orchestrate. Don't produce, curate. And don't retreat, lead. Get up, dust off that experience. We have work to do. Thank you very much for listening to the guide episode from English Plus Podcast. I hope you really take what I said in this episode into consideration and usher in a new episode in your professional life and your personal life as well. Because remember, I've been saying that in English Plus Podcast for a very long time, even before AI came along, because that's the only thing that matters in our time, especially with AI now. Remember, never stop learning. That's what we do here on English Plus Podcast. So I'll see you next time.